Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to demonstrate the new certificate designer that has been built into Scoreholder. I'm currently on the organizations page, and here I have a new button that I can click, which is the certificates button. This takes me to the certificates page. At the moment I don't have any certificates, so I can create a new one by clicking over here on the Create Certificate Template button. I'm going to give it the certificate a name, which is the all-around certificate. I have an option to pre-fill the certificate with some initial fields. I'm going to deselect that for now. The sport is gymnastics, the type is all-around. I have other types of certificate that I can select. This one will be all-around though. My certificate is going to be a landscape, and it will be A4. So now I can create the certificate, and so that's done. Before I go too much further, I just want to note here that there is a settings button. Clicking this brings up those same settings that were just entered. So I can change the name, I can change the type, and the orientation and the page size. So just to demonstrate, I'm going to change it to an individual apparatus certificate. I'll click update. You can see here the type has changed, and this little orange circle here, as well as the glowing save button, is indicating that there are now changes that can be saved. So clicking the save button saves the changes. I'm going to change back though, as I want to create an individual all-around certificate. I'll save those changes again. The next button here is the background button. Clicking this allows selecting an image that we can use as the background for our certificate. So here I've got one that I've prepared earlier, and I've selected it, and clicking update has now brought the certificate background onto the page. There are a few types of elements that we can add to the page, and we've got text, rectangles, circles, and images. I'm going to add another image, so you can see here clicking the button adds this element to the page. Now double clicking this element, I have the option to select another image, and I'm going to add a logo. So great, so that's added the logo, and now I'm going to drag and update the size. I'm just going to leave that sitting in the corner there. Alright, so now that that's done, I'm going to add some text by clicking on this button here. The first thing I want to do is I want to position where the competitor's name is going to show on the certificate. So I can drag this text around. I want the size to be a bit bigger, so I'm going to select 50, and I want to make it bold. I can drag the side here to make it to resize the element. I could also hold the shift key as I resize, and it will resize both sides for me. Now let's say I have positioned it where I want vertically, but I want to center it with the page. So there are a number of options that can be used for centering elements. If you mouse over them, you'll see the tooltips that show up. So here, if I click align right, it's going to align it to the right of the page, and aligning left will align it to the left. But for what I'm doing right now, I want it aligned to the center. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit, and so that's looking pretty good. Now if I double click on this element, I'm presented with the text editor, and on the left I have a number of references that I can select to include in the text element. I'm going to search for the competitor name, which I've got here. So now I can click on this, and it's added the competitor name onto the editor. Now for my certificate, I want to test it out with a real life competitor's name. So I'm going to use John Smith, by clicking on the little pencil button here, I can enter the name that I want to use, John Smith. So now you can see here the preview has been updated to include John Smith. So if I click save now, that's updated. So it's showing this reference at competitor name. Now up here, there is a toggle preview button. Clicking this button, you can see it's now filling in that reference with the name that I gave it, John Smith. Alright, so I'll toggle that back. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to click on this, and then I've got a couple of options if I wanted to make a copy. So the first one is I could copy and paste, and that can be done using the buttons up here, copy and paste, or I can click Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac, and Control V or Command V. So doing that, you can see I've made a copy here. There is another quicker way if you would like, which is you can click on the element and then press Control D or Command D to duplicate. So I've made a copy here. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit to say 30, and I want to change this, so now I don't want it to be the competitor name. I can click on this reset button. I want to search for the event name. Great. And I'm going to give it a name for while I'm preparing my certificate. I'll call it the Scoreholder event, or Scoreholder Champs. There we go. Okay, saving that now. If I toggle again, you can see it's filled the event name with its Scoreholder Champs. I'm going to add some more text down here. I'll just toggle that. And I want to say a nice message for the competitor. This certificate is proudly presented to. Cool, I'll save that. Now I've got a few elements here and they're not quite lined up. So I can select them by clicking and dragging, and then I can click this Align Center button. If I click it once, they'll all align together. If I click it a second time, they'll all align with the page. Okay, the last one I wanted to add is, if I come down here, I want to add the date. So I'm just going to resize this a little bit and put that over here. Now I'm going to search for the date, 24th of March. Add that in, click save. Great, so now I'm going to toggle the preview and see how my certificate looks. That's looking very good. I might make this in italics and make this a little bit bigger and perhaps not bold. Okay, now I want to create a PDF to see how that's all working. So over here I've got the PDF preview button. Clicking this is going to create a preview PDF. Great. So here you can see the PDF has been created. Now you'd note that the background image is not included. And you would want to do this if you have pre-printed your certificates, and all you need to do is print the text over top. So this is the approach that you take. However, if I close this and I come back to the background settings here, there is an option to include the image. So if I check that and I update and come over here and again generate a PDF preview, you can see now that the background image has been included. But looking down here, I can see that there is a slight little white space coming through. I don't quite like that, so I'm going to come back to the background settings. At the moment, I've got the image fit setting to contain. There's a couple of things I could change here. One, I could give it a margin, so what that might look like if I set that to 10. You can see it's brought it's brought the image in. Not really what I'm after. I could also set it to -10, and now that's stretched the image outwards. Also not really what I want, so I'm going to select a different option here. There's 3 options to select from. Stretch is going to stretch the image to fit the page. Contain is what I'm currently using, where it's going to make sure that the image is rendered within the page. And then cover is not going to change the ratio of the image, but it is going to still fill the page. So I'm going to change that to cover, click update, and then now let's see how it looks. Alright, so that's looking pretty good to me. At this point I can save the certificate and it's ready to go. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is add some more details. I'm going to add another text block, bring that down here, double clicking. So I want to show the ranking or the position that the competitor achieved. I'm going to search for rank. There's 2 options for rank. One is rank where it's just a number, or you could use the ordinal rank, which will include first, second, third, etc. So I'm going to use the ordinal rank. Now I want to add my own text here, so I want to say first overall, and looking down here you can see the preview is updated as I type. And I also want to include the score. So if I search for all around score, you can see I've got the option here. Great, so clicking save, you can see that's come through here. And now if I toggle, I've got this the ranking and the score being shown as well. I can make that a little bit bigger. That's great. I just want to mention at this point there is a couple of options that I've got for handling the text. For this one, everything is centered, but I could also align it to the left if I wanted to, the right, or back to the center. And the same with the vertical alignment. I could align it to the top, and I can align it to the bottom. But for now, I'm going to leave it in the center. I can also change the color of the text. So I can select red, and I can also add a border around the text and give that a color. Now let's say I've made these changes and I don't think it looks very good. I want to undo, so I can come up here and I can click the undo changes button, and that's going to reverse what I've just applied. Great, so that's good. I'm going to save the certificate. Now let's say I also wanted to create, I wanted to also give the competitors a participation certificate. Now I've just set up my template. I don't want to have to redo it all. So there is the option to click on the clone certificate template button. And what that does is it brings up the certificate. You can give it a new name. I'm going to call this the participation certificate. And I click clone. And you can see now here it's added a new certificate. The problem I have is that it's still an individual all around. So if I come back to the settings, I can change the type to be participation and I click update. Okay, so now if I turn the toggle preview off, you'll see that the ordinal rank and the all around score are now showing as red. And if I double click in here, I can see that it's giving me a message that an unsupported reference has been used. So this is because the ordinal rank and all around score are not supported for participation certificates. So I'm just going to delete that block. I just want to note that if you do end up with references like that, if I undo that change for a moment and I toggle, you'll see that those references are not populated, but the certificate can still be used. So I can delete that, I'll save the certificate. Great. So these are the two certificates that I'm going to use for my event. So now that my certificates are set up, I'm going to go to the details page and go to my event. If I go to the rounds, I've got one round which the competitors have competed for, and I want to create my certificates, but the button here is disabled. So what I now need to do is I need to link the certificate templates with this event. So going back to the details, there's a section down here called certificates, and under participation I'm going to select the participation certificate, and for the individual all around I'm going to select the all around certificate. Now when I return to the rounds, you can see the button is enabled, and firstly I'm going to create the participation certificates. So I'm going to uncheck all around and come down and click the download button. Great. So now you can see for each competitor it has prepared a participation certificate. I also want to create all around certificates, and here I've got a range selector. So you can see there are 6 competitors. If I only wanted to create certificates for the top 3, I could change this to be between 1 to 3, or if I wanted to create for the last 3, I could change it to go from 3 to 6. I'm going to create for all. So click download. So now you can see it's also populated the ranking and the score of that individual. The last thing I wanted to show is if you have quite sophisticated certificate requirements, you might want to change for different rounds. You can click here. This will give the option to now select and specify a specific template for each discipline, and that can be applied to the all-around certificate as well. So if I had another round, I'm going to have a step 3 WAG, so now I could select WAG and I could specify a new certificate. So if I jump back to the organization page for a moment, come down, I'm going to clone my all around, and I'm going to change the name. I'm going to call it the WAG all around certificate, and then I can save that. And now back over here I can select the WAG all around certificate. So for WAG specifically, the WAG all around certificate would be used, but for all other disciplines it would default to what's shown at the top here, which is the all around certificate. So that's a quick introduction to the Scoreholder Certificate Designer. Feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.